Welcome back. It is 8:57 News and Views on Salam Media, and our next guest is based in Jenin in Palestine. He is a journalist and he is Osama Nazzal. He's going to talk to us about what I consider a significant and a serious matter regarding this current genocide that's playing out in Gaza and, of course, all around Palestine. We also, and of course, we understand that on Friday, the United States announced a new series of sanctions linked to Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank in the latest sign of growing US frustration with the policies of Netanyahu, whose coalition government relies on settler parties. That's the one issue. The other issue is also that the US is suggesting that they are going to be imposing sanctions because of all of the attacks. They're also saying that Netanyahu and his war machine is killing the Palestinians for no reason at all. So how are the people on the ground, the Palestinian people, people in Gaza and all around Palestine, viewing these statements by the US, the United States government? And what sort of responses are you also hearing from the settlers and Netanyahu's government? Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome, Osama Nazzal.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me. Really, any statements by the American administration are not a surprise to the Palestinian people because the position of the American administration is known when it comes to the rights of the Palestinian people. It is against the rights of the Palestinian people, and it is fully supporting the Israeli occupation government and the Zionist regime crimes against the Palestinians. We know that since the start of the Israeli genocide campaign against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, the American administration provided everything for Israel: money, weapons, and all forms of military equipment. So the American administration did not change its position since the start of the war on Gaza. And what was noticed over the past few weeks is just a change in the tone of the American officials. But when it comes to the core issue, which is full support for the Zionist regime and categorically rejection of the Palestinians' right, is clear. Now there is harmony between the Israeli occupation government work and the American administration conduct. We saw how the American Congress approved billions of dollars support for the Israeli occupation government, and also the unlimited provision of bombs and other types of weapons for Israel. This is nothing new, really. The people of Palestine know that the main cause of the continuity of their problem, of course, the Israeli occupation. Second, the American administration and its full support for the Israeli government continuation of its occupation and its aggressions against the Palestinians.
So why do you suppose that the US-based Access News site on Saturday reported that Washington was planning to impose sanctions on Israelis' Netza Yehuda battalion, which has operated in the occupied West Bank, though the Israeli military said that it was not aware of any such measures? And added to that, then, the all-important question also is, they've made this statement. We're not quite sure how much of propaganda is involved in this statement. But then the all-important question to ask then is, why at this late stage are they now suggesting that they're going to impose sanctions on Israel after what you have said, after arming the Israelis to the teeth with all sorts of armaments, weaponry, etc., and giving them as much military aid and monetary aid as they possibly can. And at this late stage in the game, where almost 40,000 Palestinian people have been brutally murdered, they come out with a statement such as this.
I think this is part of the American bluff and of the American deception methods and techniques. The American administration is trying to deceive its public in the United States, and we all see the demonstrations and the protests against the American administration support of the Israeli occupation war on Gaza. And we see what's happening every day at the campus of the University of Columbia and other universities in the United States, and the confrontation between the students who call for justice for Palestine and the American administration police who try to suppress this voice. Biden is going to the elections in November, and he is trying to get the content and satisfaction
Ah,
his base there. And he knows how many voices there are against the Israeli war on Gaza. So, talking about imposing sanctions on Israeli military unit working in the occupied Palestinian territory is not more than American bluff and American deception. If they are serious about imposing sanctions, they have to impose the sanctions on the Israeli occupation government, which is representative of all the activities and all the crimes conducted by the Israeli occupation army units, regardless of the name or the type of that unit. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his Council of War and his cabinet are responsible for what the Israeli occupation soldiers are doing in the occupied Palestinian territory. So why they don't impose sanctions on the Israeli government? Why they don't call on the Israeli government to dismantle its colonial settlements in the occupied territories? Why they don't call for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip? Why they vetoed the Palestinian bid at the International Security Council for full membership at the United Nations? So they say something and they do something different on the ground, proving what the Palestinian people believe and see, that the American administration has never been on the side of the Palestinians and have never been in support of the rights of the Palestinian people. And the American administration considers Israel as its colonial arm in the Middle East, and it is providing everything in order to maintain its colonial arm in this region.
so obviously, too little, too late, a lot of propaganda. And I think you've hit the nail on the head when you suggested the upcoming elections in America. This probably is, these type of statements are to appease the votes that they think they might be losing, because there is a very big Muslim community in the United States. And clearly, if they don't make some sort of noises and try to show that they have sympathy for the Palestinian situation, all of those votes are going to be totally lost.
Without any doubt, because we have today a strong voice in the United States as we see the Muslim, the Arab, the Palestinian communities, and also all the pro-justice categories of the American community, and the Black movement also. They all support justice for the people of Palestine and support the enforcement of the rights of the Palestinian people, standing against the Israeli genocidal campaign in the Gaza Strip. And the American administration, Biden, and the Democratic Party are aware that they are going to lose all these votes unless they make a change towards the Palestinian cause. And unfortunately, they are not making the necessary change, the tangible, the concrete change that can convince their constituents in the United States that they are serious about providing a just solution for the cause of Palestine. So their statements and their actions are not beyond the bluff and deceit that the American administration has been using against the Palestinians since the start of the Israeli occupation. You know that the American administration sponsored the negotiations between the Palestinians and the Israeli occupation, and sponsored the signature of the Oslo Agreement between the PLO and the Israeli occupation government. And it did not work even to implement the terms and the conditions of Oslo agreement between the two sides, and it continued to support the Israeli policy of building settlements in the West Bank. Today, if you visit the West Bank, you will see that there is no space for the establishment of the Palestinian state if the world is talking about the two-state solution. Israel is doing everything without any deterrent, without any obstacle, because it has the full backing, whether from the United States or from the Western world in general, like Britain, Germany, France, all these countries that used to colonize the Arab and Muslim world in the past are supporting Israel now to the teeth, as you said.
Okay, final two questions then would be, um, would it make any difference at all uh, post the American elections who comes into power, whether it's the Republicans or whether it's the Democrats? Currently, it's a democratic government in the United States. But should the Republicans come into power, do you think the situation would be much worse for the Palestinians because they are ultra conservative? Or does it just not matter? Because as far as America and the Western world is concerned, this is a game they're playing to keep their presence and their eye and on the Middle East for their own selfish gains.
Yeah, of course, Donald Trump being the candidate for the Republican Party, and the Republican Party in general is vocally against the cause of Palestine and the rights of the Palestinian people. And Trump is the one who announced that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Zionist regime. So the situation is going, I don't want to say that it's going to be worse, but it is the same, because Biden provided all forms of support to the Israeli occupation government in its genocidal campaign against our people in the Gaza Strip. Biden did not cancel any of the Trump's administration resolutions vis-a-vis the Palestinian cause, and he kept the American embassy in Jerusalem. He did not open the American consulate in East Jerusalem, which was expected before he took office in order to manage the Palestinian American relations. Biden did not ask Israel to stop settlement building only by words if he did that, but he did not take any tangible action to stop that. Biden provided tons of bombs and explosives to Israel to kill tens of thousands of Palestinian children and women in the Gaza Strip. So I think that it is not a matter of comparison between the Republican and the Democratic Party as far as Biden is going to be the next president if the Democratic Party wins the elections. I think that they are having the same policy when it comes to the issue of Palestine and Israel. We don't count any hope on either party, because the cause of Palestine is not a partisan issue uh, when it comes to the American foreign policy. They agree on the same thing: full support to Israel, and doing everything possible to force the Palestinian to step down, give up, and surrender.
You alluded to the two-state solution a little while ago in the conversation. Is that a solution that is going to be workable for the Palestinian people? Is that what the Palestinian people would agree on? Is it viable at all?
Really, the Israeli occupation policy over the past few years left no space for the two-state solution. As I told you, if you have an opportunity as a journalist to visit the occupied Palestinian territories, you're going to see how the Israeli colonial settlements are punctuating every inch of the Palestinian territory. Between every Palestinian village and the other, there is a colonial settlement at the hills of the Palestinian territory. If you come to Jerusalem, for example, it is completely isolated from its Palestinian environs by the Israeli settlements and the Israeli military towers and checkpoints. So, talking about the two-state solution today without having the concrete steps on the ground, I think it is a waste of time. The Palestinian West Bank is full of Israeli settlements. We are talking about close to a million Israeli settlers living in the Palestinian territories, stealing the Palestinian land, stealing the Palestinian property, burning the Palestinian villages, shooting the Palestinian shepherds and the Palestinian farmers and killing them in many cases. And the Palestinian towns and villages are cantons or worse than ghettos, really. I don't call the Palestinian towns in the West Bank ghettos today. They are less than Bantustans or cantons, and at the entrance of each canton there is a Israeli military gate in order to make sure that Israeli settlers have fully freedom to use all the Palestinian roads and all the Palestinian areas. When we talk about Gaza, Gaza has been decimated really, and it is leveled to the ground. So I do know where we are going to have the Palestinian state. Are we going to have it, for example, in the in the Dead Sea, or are we going to have it in the sky? No space is left, and this is the problem with the Western and the American policy, and all those who talk about the two-state solution. They talk in order to buy time, more deception of the Palestinians, and more time and more opportunity for Israel to grab more Palestinian land and to liquidate the possibility of having a Palestinian state.
On that very, very sad note, then, we're going to wrap up. Osama Nazzal, you're a journalist based in Jenin. Thank you indeed for your thoughts. Always a pleasure talking with you, but always on a very, very sad note regarding the plight of the Palestinian people. Our ongoing du'as, inshallah, Allah is the best of planners, and let's hope and pray there will be a great outcome for the people of Palestine, that they will, inshallah, eventually be victorious. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Salam. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.
9:15 news and views moving on this morning on Salam Media, and in a minute or two after we take an ad break, we will be joined by Anissa Musa. She is the coordinator of the National Shelter Movement of South Africa, and of course this revolves around GBV issues. And then we will wrap up with Kasim Khan, Premier candidate for the Western Cape Province, talking about the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. Please stay with us.